Hello, everyone, and welcome on over to MEC POD. Words that make me feel a little bit of sorrow saying, but my name's Travysty, joined here with Shibby, joined here with Mac. Gents, we have gathered here today. Are we just pod right now? Are we just pod?
No. So we said we will do an episode. We'll do an episode every week until they get knocked out.
Yeah.
Until there's no MEC team remaining. Unfortunately, there are no MEC teams remaining. This is the last week.
We're just pod. We're just pod.
We are just pod.
The pod with Mac, Travy, and Shibby.
Thumbnail is going to have an X through the MEC and just going to be pod.
I was so sad. I was so sad because I couldn't cast any of the MEC games, right? I'm not casting anything until next week because I'm on Mother's Day this weekend. I already told my mom and over.
Yeah.
So I couldn't cast the top 32 games. Couldn't cast the top 16 games. I watched
you
the top
C-Long?
Yeah, real. Wow. No, I do. I love CeeLo, but the schedule just unfortunately never worked out. I got to watch the top 16 games with Mac's beautiful bracketology. I like how they're doing the commercials or whatever in between the wait times. I think, Salty Runback have done like an immaculate job, like a very good job with the broadcast. Obviously, you guys, I got to see you guys cast and everything. It's very, very reminiscent of like a professional broadcast, right? Like it's very, very good the way they do handle transitions and stuff. Obviously, you guys know more of like what's happening in the background, the fires that are being put out. I can see the chat, but I don't know what's happening. But from the viewer perspective, it's very, very good, very, very fluid, and very, very seamless. So just a quick shout out to you guys and Salty Runback because I had a lot of fun. I was obviously at a LAN this weekend. That was fun, but we weren't casting the whole weekend, so I got to catch the games on Saturday, and they broke my heart. I think we'll get into it, but the Ottawa SCC series just breaks my heart.
There were a lot of heartbreaks inside of the week. Mac, how about you? Is your heart also feeling broken? Did you go back into your room and start playing angsty music again?
Today is the worst day I've had in a very long time. You guys know the Stephen A meme where he misses out on Zion? And that's how I feel right now. Oh my gosh. It was brutal. I was watching the Ottawa VODs earlier. I was closely watching the PNW game. This is how I started my Sunday. Because I had my cast later on. Unfortunately, they couldn't book me on any of the MEC matches. That was brutal. So I casted SLU versus UCSD. I was lit watching PNW go toe-to-toe with UST. So shout out the boys. I was so into it. It was such a good series. I was really excited about that one. And then I think Travy GVU started like during the PNW stream, or kind of like halfway through.
Series. Ottawa was in game number 3 when we started, and Purdue Northwest was going into game 2. So there was like a little cascading effect that was going down on all the NBC games. I was sitting here. I felt so bad for my producer in Summer because legitimately they just hearing me like, let's go, Doubtful, let's go. And I'm sitting here like, oh no, you're doing it. No, stop, you're not doing it. Stop it. like I'm just sitting here like full gas pedal straight on down. They're like, yo, you gotta cast this series, and you start getting kind of loud. And I'm like, dude, I'm just into it because like Shibby said, Ottawa was their first 2 games. St. Clair had no business winning, but shout out to St. Clair having really good team fighting, and Ottawa just
shout out to Rock Boom. Shout out to
Absurd.
Dude, I called it too. I was like, the Levi Rock Boom fight is gonna be insane.
Mm-hmm.
Those two guys fucking went at it, bro. Like it was really good. Yeah. I mean, even in the third game, there was like a room where Ottawa was ahead. Like that, like Ash, like
They
Levi
were
was
ahead
on
in Dragons all game, all series,
I mean,
right?
yeah, it was Ocean Soul and then Hextech Soul they lost on. I don't want to like obviously the Ottawa boys are gonna fucking watch this. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to dredge up some really bad memories. But I like how you said it was a
Viewer
cascade.
discretion.
It was a cascade of sadness, Travesty, because me and Yanni were watching the games and I'm like, dude, Ottawa's ahead. And I'm like, wait. And he's like, oh, really? I was like, I didn't think they would even get ahead of SEC. I'm like, yeah, but they gotta close it out. Like, I'm so scared they won't. And then it just
Yeah, we were talking about it actually. Where we actually, so we have like our little meetings and stuff like that we talk about like the games and whatnot. And my notes that I put in was actually like Ottawa's gonna try and throw you inside of a pig pen and try to roll around in the mud with you. That's their game plan. I said the negative to that is they get just as muddy as you do. They might like to play in the filth, but they're still in filth. That's not a positive in its own way, because it means that you're still in a bad. You could put yourself in a bad situation. And I think I think if we're going to talk about a series first, let's go and start talking about the cascading thing, because Ottawa, we were talking about it. Two games where the first two games it felt like they should have won. I look at those two games and I go, wow, this gives me reminders of MEC finals in which we saw Levi was insanely ahead, Blonde was in a good position, and then they crumble inside of team fights, or they try to go for unnecessary flanks, right? Like, I felt like I looked a lot of times and I was just like, all right, there's no reason to be moving around the map like this, right? You could just ball up and wrecking ball through this team, but then you're in a situation where, like, you guys are separate and they just pick you guys apart, and, I mean, St. Clair, they're really good at team fighting, just in general. They know how to play around Rock Boom. I mean,
front to back. Yeah.
I feel like Ottawa just is a good showing, but dang, that's going to leave a bitter taste in their mouth, especially since two players graduated.
Yeah, Levi and Killian, right? Arguably two players that were super important to how this team functions, right? I mean, you could argue Killian has his own set of champion pools. He's isolated in the top side, but I mean, Ottawa is not winning a majority of these fights in any of their games if Killian's not on something like the Rumble, if it gets let through, on the Cannon. Like, Killian had really good TP timing, or normally has a very good TP timing in flanks. Very normally. He even busted out something new like the Sejuani, which is very cool. But, like, yeah, Levi showed that he can go toe-to-toe with an NACL level player, right? Like, him and Rock Boom were dealing blows back and forth. Like these two individuals were the reason some of these guys are winning fights. And like I said, shout out to St. Clair. It's a tough matchup. St. Clair, there's a reason like they're the best team in the East and all that stuff, and they've got a really good roster. Ricky LaFleur, Bakery Boy, these kind of guys, like even Miracle and Rock Boom, who are just an insane bot lane in their own right. The resiliency to come back and stay within the game. Like, obviously Ottawa made some mistakes, and the thing that has plagued Ottawa, right, since we've known them, since last year even to some degree, right, is that they just unfortunately cannot convincingly close out leads. And in the Weber game, the way I like to hearken it is that they just flipped heads, right? They flipped heads 2 times. In the other games in SEC, they unfortunately flipped tails, and they couldn't just kind of like win that one unanimous team fight with the numbers advantage and then close out to push. It was always 4 for 5, 5 for 5, or 5 for 4, that kind of thing, right? So, like, there was one fight where like Ricky was the last guy alive as Cassante, right?
Yeah.
There's another fight where it was just Levi, and it's like, well, you can't really do anything. They couldn't convincingly win a fight. It was very razor thin margins. And when it happens like that, eventually just St. Clair, with their experience and everything, are just going to be able to find that fight or find the eventual pick. And yeah, I don't think Ottawa should be ashamed by the games. Like, if you look at it on paper, the bracket score, 3-0, this was the closest 3-0 I've ever seen. This easily could have gone to 5 games.
And even kind of building on top of that, Shibby, there was the one fight with Ocean Soul where it's literally a stalemate between
Yeah.
St. Clair and Ottawa, right? It's Killian on the Sejuani pick with Ocean Soul running at, I think it was Miracle, and it wasn't Ricky. I think it was whoever the jungler was playing. But they literally like backed it. They were like, "We can't kill each other. We don't have the damage," and then they just like go their separate ways.
Yeah. It's like
It was like, it was
like, all
absurd.
right,
I was
I'm
like,
gonna
"What is
leave.
going on?"
It was definitely a sad day. I think Ottawa, like we said, I mean, being top 16 inside of the country is already a pretty insane deal. But besides that, it's just like also just took on another number one seed team, right? Like think about it, they beat number one in the West, and honestly, if they were able to win those first two games, right? We could be in a situation where we're talking about this and said, wow, they beat the best of the West and the best of the East. Like, they are the rising and the setting of the sun, right? Like, it's actually insane. But unfortunately for them, their season, it ends, just like some of our other MEC teams, as I think this is a good segue to go and talk about Purdue Northwest.
Yeah, that's another one where I don't. If you ask anybody before the week, they were like, "Oh, I think like I was talking to Adam, and they're like, I don't think MEC takes 2.5 games out of all the three series." I mean, with how close Ottawa went and how good Purdue Northwest looked into an arguably tougher team, right? Like USD.
They're the favorites, I would say, because they're reigning defending champs.
Two former pro players, right? Again, Ken V. Array on this team. Porsche and Robbie Bob, 2-time CLOL champions back to back. Oh, and by the way, you've also got Trevor and NACL level support in the bottom lane. That's a tough task for any of the teams outside of top four. I don't even think like Northwood. I don't think St. Clair. Like, I don't think any of these teams. Maybe St. Clair, maybe, right? But like, even if Ottawa's giving them trouble, it's like a weird like triangle of like killing and all that.
Classic
I don't know,
MEC. Yeah, no, this
Where
we
do
always
your
got our
strengths and weaknesses
triangle.
align, right? Like,
yeah. And the fact that Purdue is able to take game, I think it was 2 so dominantly, like it was like 17-5 when I checked the score. I was like, oh my god, like you're able to do this to UST. Like there is a world where they can win a couple more games. I mean, 3-1 again. I think Purdue Northwest definitely have nothing to be ashamed about. I think it was the deck was stacked against them, obviously, right? Like all of MEC, they going into round 16, they had probably the toughest matchups, and I think the Purdue Northwest games, another one of those things where like key moments in game 3 and 4 where things just kind of come crumbling down, and UST is one of those teams that once you give them that opening, it's kind of hard for them to give it back, right?
Imagine being the number one seed coming out of your conference and your second round matchup is UST, though, right? Like, it's also just like so unlucky the way that the bracket formulated for Purdue Northwest. I feel like because I do think like if I look at them stylistically, like they did do some crazy things. They did the Senna Orin bot lane a couple times, right? They brought out the Diana jungle and popped off on it, right? But I mean, it feels like when they ended up getting all the cards drawn out, like they drew every card in their hand and played them all onto the field. They got obliterated real quick. UST feels like they had a infinite amount of plays that they could kind of branch off from there. And it's like that one game where Doubtful came out swinging. It was a glimmer of hope because you're like, oh, the walls, they've come crumbling down. But
Yep.
like then all of a sudden they patched the walls back up. They said, all right, let's get a new Titan to step in there. We'll build the wall around them.
Is it the Family Guy Amish scene where they keep trying to destroy the barn?
Oh, and then they just keep rebuilding it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
And what was
crazy.
it like? Trevor went Camille support or something as
that
well.
was,
like
yeah.
UST's in their bag. I'm like, God, this is not an easy team for Marquez to try and shove something up. Like, and again, hammer home the point, defending champs for a reason. But for as good as PNW was playing, shouts to UST because they were awesome.
Yeah, I genuinely think if they get matched up against any of these other Group B teams, we potentially see Purdue Northwest taking it, right? Like Fisher, St. Clair, Northwood. Obviously, Northwood looks very good. RBM turning back the clock.
Northwood's a hard team to like gauge. I feel like because, like you said,
yeah.
When does the clock get turned back, and when does it go? When does the carriage become a pumpkin again?
Yeah, and it's so weird. Northwood is such a they're like a top. They're sometimes like they're the Dr. Jekyll and Hyde of teams, like unironically, like ISO randomly like getting an Urgot pentakill. Like I don't know,
So
ISO
weird,
solo killing
right?
people on Maokai. That team's crazy, but like I think like realistically, Purdue Northwest, unfortunately, the way the bracket rolls out, you just had to roll the 2-time defending CLL champions. I think they probably can beat St. Clair and Fisher, like no doubt in my mind. I think they beat those teams, but yeah.
What about Winthrop, Shippy, and Travy?
Wait. I do want to talk
Where?
about Purdue Northwest a little bit longer.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'm
Fair.
glad that Travysty said, or I call him Travy, but Travysty
No
said
big
that
deal.
they laid out. Yeah, it's just it's they did lay out all their cards. Like we did see the way bottom. We did get to see like the doubtful Klexo combinations. Like I'm glad they stuck to their guns and like were able to try to play what they could. I think Prank held his own. I mean, Prank versus Porsche is always an interesting matchup because both of these guys are like weak side, right? Like they're not necessarily the highlight of their teams. But I'm really glad that he was able to hold his own against Porsche. And yeah, I'm yeah, that's rough. I think Purdue Northwest. I was excited because I was watching their games with Yanni on my mobile phone at like a Buc-ee's in Texas. I was just like, dude, this is crazy. It's getting close. Like they won game 2, and then it's like, oh man. But yeah, I that's the only thing I wanted to say. And I think, Travi, I think you're the best person to talk about this because you were casting the games. I got to see a preview. It's funny. I got to see a preview of this match on Friday.
Everyone got to cast MEC, but me.
Yeah. So at the NECC Nationals LAN in Texas, both Winthrop and GVU played off against each other in the finals. And that was a 2-0 from Winthrop.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, maybe they're saving stacks. Maybe they've got something in store. Proctor has been playing the full tank Galio top. Galio's been being experimented with. It was interesting because GVU beat Oklahoma Christian at that same LAN in the group stage.
Yeah.
So I was like, oh, they beat Oklahoma Christian. Oklahoma Christian's a pretty good team, right? They have Gorilla Jones, Josu, Trinket Lens. They've got a lot of good players on this team. It's not like, a bad team by any means. Suffice to say, I think there were moments where GVU could have done something to Winthrop. But just Winthrop kind of showed why they're a top 4 team, right? Like that's why they're a Group A team, and it's so scary.
Yeah. Yeah. it's so nutty. I actually tried to go back and watch the VOD, Shibby, but NECC doesn't like save their VODs on their Twitch, which
it's on YouTube Live.
Well,
YouTube
here's the thing. I went to YouTube afterwards. Only the first game is on YouTube. It gets cut off after the first game. So I was sitting here like, dude, where is it? Because like I was trying to grab clips because I was like, I'm gonna use some clips to do like a little pre-roll content.
Yeah.
And I couldn't get any, so I was like, all right. I messaged Adam, and Adam was just like, yeah, talk to such and such or get onto it. And he was just like, well, rip, because he saw it too. He's just like, yeah, well, there's only that VOD, so sorry. So
I think after game 1,
yeah,
it hit like 12 hours. I guess it just YouTube after 12 hours of live.
It cuts off.
It cuts off. Yeah.
Yeah. So it was unfortunate timing. But this series was an interesting one because of the fact of like there was also travel involved to bring that up as a economy for it. It's like I think Winthrop arrived the night before. GVU, because the game got pushed back, they actually didn't arrive back at home until like 2 hours before the game. And I like it's so rough, and it's like I want to bring up those like external factors and why I bring that up, and it's not to be an excuse, but it's like these teams, right? I hope that scheduling gets better for CeeLo going into next year, because for the past 2 years it's been absolute booty cheeks, like straight up all over the place. Like every single place that's trying to focus around collegiate action is colliding schedules with each other. Can you guys please stop? For the players' sake, for my sake, can we stop colliding schedules? I think if you do take and flip it back over to the game itself, I think GVU had a good start to game 1 that got fumbled. I think the recovery in game 2 was great. They should have won, but they made some really bad decisions. And then game 3 was full on the tilt bus.
Yeah, Winthrop just kind of took over. And to talk about the scheduling a little bit, it's so hectic. Riot Scholastic actually tweeted 1 day ago, we're about 1 month away from 2024 Collegiate LOL and Val Championships. Icelandic goes, have we been playing in a simulation? Am I real?
Summer also tweeted about that. Summer went, nice try, everyone, and that just started a couple weeks ago. I was like, damn, the one time they tried to make a tweet about it.
I'm glad we're not sponsored because, like you said, the handling of this year's collegiate has been, I'm going to be nice, less than desirable. I'm going to be very nice about that. I you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the fact that external parties have had to kind of take over in the reins, and shout out to Tim, who's been nothing but communicative and helpful, right? Tim Dakar, however you want to know him. The guy has been so helpful on like schedules, stats, the stuff that you're seeing for Salty Runback it's Tim. It's Dakar pulling in the stats for these games, doing all the legwork. So, you know, as much as a shit show it is, there are people within the scene. There are people that are on that collegiate side that are definitely trying to help and provide as much as they can. And I think Dakar's been doing a really good job. So shout out to him specifically.
Deserves a lot of credit.
On the GG Tech and
deserves so much credit.
Like one-man army, really. One-man army in my opinion. And yeah, I think the scheduling, the way it's been handled, I think there's a lot of stuff. I think it's weird that why is like CLOL, why is Riot Scholastic not talking to CECC and NECC? Why are we not talking to these partner conferences about when their lands are?
Yeah.
Why are we not?
That's my point.
What are we doing?
That's my point. It's like, why is there no communication between the different lands and the conferences, right? I feel like this past year...
what?
Yeah, go ahead.
Just for clarification, what was the CECC?
So
it was the College Esports Commissioners Cup, right?
Yeah.
Acronym?
So
and then it was NECC Championship.
Nationals. So CECC and NECC partnered together. They got the space. They got the Arlington Esports Stadium.
Sick. So sick. The pics and the environment looked unreal. And everyone
So CECC,
so cool.
They got the main stage, right? They got the big main stage. I think you saw pics of like other, if you're like friends with other casters, right? Leighton and all those guys, all the producers for the Esports U side. They were using that big main stage. And then we had our own like smaller setup stage on the my right. If you're looking at the pictures from the LAN, my right, like essentially
stage right.
Stage. Yeah, on the right. No, on the right set, like where me and Yanni were casting, on the right side of that whole setup, there's like a stage with players and everything, own audience, everything like that.
Okay. Gotcha.
And then, they partnered together because CECC or Esports U doesn't do the League of Legends stuff. They do like Overwatch, Val, Rocket League, Smash. Smash is super hype as always. I mean, I already knew, but it was really cool. Rocket League is hype. They had all these cool.
Did anyone dare hop on the sticks against you?
I didn't know. No. So I didn't know there were friendly setups. I didn't bring my controller. I didn't know there were friendly setups. I was so sad. I was so sad. I was so sad.
I was missing out on money matching.
Yeah, I wanted to run some pockets. I was telling Yanni, I was like, I didn't know they would have friendly setups. And then so NECC does League. Mm-hmm. They also did Val, and they did.
Don't they also do
Overwatch.
Overwatch?
Okay.
Yeah, they did Overwatch.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
what Chef Billy, and they did Rocket League, I think.
Yeah.
They did Rocket League. Yeah. That's where it was Danger Taco, right? The duo. Um, and then it was Billy and Skunk, and then there was Zobi and Sam, right? They did a thing for us. So yeah, we had like a smaller stage, and CECC got the big stage. But yeah, it was Nationals championship. Like it was for money. There was a cash prize, there was a trophy, there was everything. Winthrop won it, and Winthrop and GVU got to play on the big main stage for their Nationals final, the League of Legends one. So that big main stage that CECC was using, NECC got to use it, and they got to play towards the end of that day or the end of the night. And yeah, like circling back to the point. Why are we not communicating?
Exactly.
Why is RSSA not taking the initiative to be like, hey, these are our proposed dates. We're gonna run the tournament on these weekends. This is gonna be the championship date. If you have teams, most likely that are gonna be competing, because all three teams also played in top 16 of CLOL that weekend. If you'll have teams, you know what I mean? Like it's just brutal for the travel. Like sneezes.
So how?
Go
Well,
on, go on.
my question is for, like, I mean, we're kind of thinking about the logistics and, why is this happening? I guess so. University esports completely took it over, and this was kind of their first year, right? Um, what was, because NECC is a partner conference, right? And they had like a 1 seed and a 2 seed. So how did those teams get seeded? Was it based on the regular season, and then there's like a
So
championship bracket
so
for
this is different.
this
So
past weekend?
NECC, yeah, so NECC runs their own CLOL conference,
Yeah.
right? Which
Right.
consists of obviously like Ole Miss, Winthrop, UIUC's in there, Northwood, those teams, right? Like that's the CLOL conference. But they also run other tournaments like Legends and stuff like that, where like GVU compete and Oklahoma Christian and stuff. You can also invite teams. I don't know like the full, because obviously I'm just a caster for them.
Yeah.
But they also like can invite teams. Like Ole Miss, I believe, was invited. It's essentially anybody that's, I believe, competed within the NECC system. And obviously the top 4 teams that would be invited, I assume, would have been like Winthrop, Ole Miss, GVU, and Oklahoma Christian, right? Those were, I believe, the 4 teams. And then Fisher was supposed to be there, but Fisher couldn't field a League of Legends team for the event. A lot of weird stuff happening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we only had 3 teams, but yeah, that's kind of how it works. And so yeah, the NECC CLOL is a little bit different from what they
I
were
see.
doing.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called NECC Nationals. Or something.
Yeah, but
Okay.
and it's its own separate league, but it does still feel like, right, like why would one event, why have overlap like it did, right? And it just makes
Crazy
scheduling
overlap.
harder. Like it's
Yeah.
hard overlap, and I think that the point that Shibby made is the best one. Why is there no initiative in making sure? Because I think NECC should be a thing, right? Like I say this wholeheartedly, and this is not a slight against them. Is just me being like, yo, these players like GVU and Winthrop literally got back the night before. GVU got back because schedule. So from what my understanding was, from when I talked to people about it, GVU, their games got pushed back for some reason over at the event, and they didn't play until like 10 or 10:30.
Yeah.
And because of that, they didn't get to go back, because their plan was they were going to go back home that night. And they were going to, that way they could rest up in their own beds and like actually like rest up and get ready for their CLO matchup. Instead, because it went on so late, they didn't get back home until like 2 hours beforehand, because you want to be safe. You don't want to be driving in the middle of the night like that. It's just,
Was the sorry, Trevi, was the expectation for a esports event to run on time according to schedule?
Yeah,
Was
I
that-
know, but that goes to my point though, right? Like you can't run a close ship in esports. Like if you have 2 conflicting schedules and you're going to run them close, you better not, right? Like we already have trouble getting people to start draft on time. But like it's like,
Yeah, right.
Like we can't. You're expecting us to say like everybody's going to have everything organized. There's not going to be any conflict. There's not going to be tech issues, right? Like I don't know. There's all sorts of thoughts I have about it. But I did want to bring it up because I do look over at GVU and Winthrop, and I salute them because they're absolute troopers for doing that.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you, the last thing I want to do after big travel off of a LAN day, because I've done that, I don't want to play any video games, honestly. I like going to sleep. Like, that's my thing. Like, I used to compete. I would go to a LAN, I would do what I did, I would get home that Sunday, and I would just starfish out on my bed. I got the best night's sleep. I would sleep for like 12 hours at night.
Yeah, it's rough. Also coordinating those events, like
Yeah.
obviously on NECC side and getting the teams to come. There's a lot. Right?
There's a lot. It's a lot to unpack, and we're only casters, so I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
we're also like on the
those-
outside
yeah.
looking in, right? Like,
Yeah. Like the logistics behind it is way too much. You know, I got to talk to some people, but even then, that was just like a glimpse of like what it was supposed to be and stuff like that. And yeah, I think the initiative should be on Riot Scholastic. I think you should like, hey, all the partner conferences, North, South, East, like MEC ends like a month before CLO even begins. Like that's fine. That's their schedule. That's the way Unified does it. But yeah, I think it's really weird that like there isn't like I don't know, maybe like once a month is too rough to like figure it out, but like there's got to be something where these people are meeting up, the conference directors or the head or whoever.
some
and be
sort
like,
of
"Hey,
conversation should happen for sure.
there's got to be so like there's no way we're at this point where we're still just fucking doing shit arbitrarily separately and hoping that like teams are going to be willing to fuck their whole sleep schedule and travel schedule. And it's like, all right, well, you either compete in this or that, and it's blah 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 blah. Because for CLOL, there's not even prizing till top 8. So like, one could argue.
No. There's top
pricing
16
once you get
pricing.
16. Yeah, once you got 16,
Yep.
it was
Is
one.
there?
It was $1
Yeah.
grand for hitting top 16.
Okay.
And
okay.
for staff members as well.
So
It was
I
like
think
1K per player and then 500 per staff for
Yeah.
top 16.
Okay. Never mind then. I was wrong on that. I thought I had read somewhere.
It
where
used to.
was.
It used to be. I think it used to be top 8 was the only ones. That
It
got
used to be top 8.
pricing.
Okay.
But
Okay.
so you're not technically
Just
wrong,
put
but
out
it
there.
had
Go
been
over there.
updated.
No. Just give
So-
it to me.
So yeah, it was something that was good. Oh, my boy got some drink. Okay.
It was tea, and I grabbed it because Amy was trying to give it to me, but she couldn't slide it through. So I just grabbed it like this, and that shit was hot as hell. I was like, it is what it is.
But I mean, to go back into it though, and kind of reset, I do wonder, like, because that series did feel like to me it was mental. I heard that some of the boys from GV were not feeling good in terms of the matchup, like, and I'm not trying to give them excuses, but they're exhausted. And then like game 2 happened, game 3 did not happen. That was not a game of League of Legends that was played. GVU was full tilt. Like, even Nightstar was tilted. Like, the way Nightstar was playing, Nightstar was, like, pushing forward. There was a moment in time where they go for a tower dive, and he just flashed in melee into him to just, like, make it easier. And I was just like,
Him and Pluto.
gone.
Him and Pluto are just trying to fucking scrap with mobility and chickens. I respect that. Like, make it volatile, but sometimes it can just end up the wrong way.
Game 3, though, it was like there was nobody was close to low. I was just like, that's a tilt play. That was a tilt play. Like,
Yeah.
and I can't blame them, really and truly, because of, like we were talking about, that mental exhaustion, which is why I was like, I feel like we need to talk about this, because it's definitely something that needs to be said, because it is hard to keep a good mental inside of a best of 5 series. That doesn't game 2 did not help the mental. They threw massively inside that one, and it is what it is.
Yeah. But other
I
than
do have a
that,
final thought on not necessarily the series, but what we were kind of talking about before. Just because it's an interesting topic for me, and we're all passionate esports guys, and
given what you're trying to do,
I feel like and just in general, like even last year with LCS finals coming to Raleigh, North Carolina, crazy. So I just enjoy the idea of like where esports is going, and I think the event in Texas, like some of the content on there, like seeing everyone in the crowd, like that's where I think we all hope esports is going. And I I imagine any tournament organizer listening to us being like, gosh, why is it so disordered? They're like, these fuckers, I would love to see them try.
So
Pull everything together, you know?
I used to to anybody who's out there too. I used to be a tournament organizer at one point in time. Like I used to when completely.
Oh, you're unofficial or not unofficial LCS? What was the LCS?
There was unofficial English broadcast. There was but I didn't do any of the scheduling in regards to that, but I was an admin in regards to that. I did the DCCS, which was like the Discord Community Championship Series, which I completely me and another person who was running things for like Echo Thoughts back at that time, Pancake. We were like the only two people doing shit inside of that, like making stuff happen. And we had like Archern that was coming in and helping out, but like we were like the main organizers in regards to that. And that was something else, bringing together 10 LCS teams full of communities that are big super fans of one team and quite possibly hate certain other teams. Let me tell you about a volatile war environment. And then I did Compete League. I organized over 200 games in Compete League in a week. Like, I know
in a week, a single week.
Oh Compete League had 3 leagues going on at all times. They had
That's so crazy.
Bronze and Silver League, a Gold and Plat League, and a Diamond Up League. And the Gold League had like 100 teams alone.
That's so sick.
That's rough.
The Diamond team, like 18. That was great. I loved the Diamond. I was just like, yeah, time to pull up to the Diamond Night, and it's done. Let's go, boys.
It's just chill. It's like 9 games. Like, all right, maybe there's a bye week.
Easy week.
But like, yeah.
This is not to shit on TOs. Yeah, this is not to shit on TOs by any mean. Like, ironically, TOs do the best they can with what they're given. Yeah, it's just rough, right? It's just rough. And like, I had a fun time at NECC.
Yeah.
I do want to take, our final like 10, 15 minutes. Just talk about
can I have one more thought, Shibby?
Go.
Well, Mac did say something about he wanted to know what our thoughts were too about like.
Well, yeah, I guess. Yeah. But now it's time for me to talk a little. I guess with all that being said and all that caveat for, we love you, tournament organizers. Like, please don't burn us at the stake or anything. But what I think is a potential fair critique is the lack of it feels like a lack of community focus from RSAA just a little bit. Or just like interaction and awareness. Like, you want me to put together stuff.
So I'm on GG Tech's Twitter right now.
Okay.
I'm on it right now. 4,600 followers, right? Nothing too crazy. 4623. Followed probably by a majority of like everyone that we know within the scene. When do you think their last post about CLOL was? Just ballpark.
I'm gonna go.
Let's go in like days.
I'm gonna go 2, 3. I'm gonna go 3 weeks ago.
Okay, so you're saying 3 weeks ago.
Hot or cold?
Travysty. What about you, Travi?
I think they had a post a week and a half ago, didn't they?
I'm scrolling through.
Okay.
That doesn't sound promising.
So we just had games. We just had games, right? We just had games this weekend, right? Yeah. We just had a bunch of stuff happen.
People are in top
12 hours
8.
ago.
There are 18. A quarter of the teams are left.
No CLOL. May 8th, nothing about CLOL. May 7th, nothing about CLOL. May 6th, nothing about CLOL. GG Tech. I'm on GG Tech Entertainment. Maybe there's another one. Maybe there's another GG Tech I'm like confusing them with. Maybe GG Tech Studios. I don't think that's them.
It's different from University Esports, because I know University Esports has been.
Well, so GG Tech is their partner, right? Like, that's the official partner. Their last post, anything CLOL related, was April 16th when they announced that it's gonna be in Boise. no bracket updates, nothing on the teams, nothing on the scheduling, and like these are the people that are supposed to be, it's University Esports, right? University Esports. They've done an okay job.
Yeah, they've been covering things, I would say. Like University Esports, that fraction off. And that's also like a weird thing, right? Like, is there like a thing where you can't interact? You want to focus on keeping it consolidated, which seems weird to me because, like you said, it is a partner thing. But I hope that they improve from this point forward. It's just one of those things where it's just rough. Like, I am somebody who is I'm one of the partnered broadcast for them. So like I'm coming in and I just want to lay that out there because I don't want people going back seeing this and then going back and seeing that announcement and being like,
it's literally coming out so soon. It's
this guy over
face
here
without the stash, I think. Updated pick.
So fun fact, you won't see my face inside the pic. So, but because everybody else is using logos, they're all like brands and stuff like that. So I was like, use my Twitch logo. But anyways, I digress.
Don't tell me you changed it. I liked your little selfie that they had.
I did change it. Yes, I did change it.
Yeah, I think University Esports, their Twitter account has done a pretty good job. But like also, you look at RSSA. There's a big gap between April 27th and
That's
May
the one
4th.
I'm going to get onto. That's the one I want to get onto because I'm like, where is it? Is there no social media influx whatsoever? Why can we not get a correct date on a tweet when you finally do talk about it? Why can you not be bothered to check your information? Was that just a scheduled tweet that you put out at the very beginning of the season and then it just happened?
Gotta be.
Like there's a lot of theory. I actually was thinking about that when I saw the tweet because I was just like, I wonder if this was a scheduled tweet. I wonder if somebody wrote this like 2 months ago. And I think one of the big things that's lost inside of it has been JT being gone from RSAA, right? Tiza.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like
yep.
them being gone, that was the face of CeeLo for a while from their running the aspect things. It's like if Riot were to get rid of Whooply. That's the impact that is left by not having JT inside of the scene. And I feel like we're actually just feeling that because the void was so big because he realistically was the one that was communicating everything. He was the one that was going out and getting stuff and making sure like things were going on the way that they needed to and did a lot of work. So I feel like it's just like more so like an appreciation. But it's like we lost a major member of the community. There was nobody who really got to step up in that. They kind of just let it stay in a void without thinking about what the consequences of that may be. And I think all around, I think the worst thing that I have to criticize is the fact that we do not have like a strong network of communication for how long CeeLo has been going on. You should have some form of communication, and I think they lost out on that. They went so many steps back by not having somebody even prepared to take JT's role, and I think that's where things have fallen apart. I think RSAA, they need somebody who is able to be that community person. Because for everybody in CeeLo, that was the guy.
Oh, that was like the guy to handle all like the technical issues, the informational issue, that kind of stuff, right? I think the other thing that's like severely lacking, and obviously Travysty, you've been around the CeeLo space a lot longer than me and Mac. I don't know if there ever was like any sort of community manager or community engagement. Like,
no, it was Tiza. Like, it was all JT. That was it.
Yeah. So this is the thing, right? Like the thing with like the community engagement in terms of like this is what we do for this. I'm talking more along the lines of like where is the individual that's like making social media posts that are like talking about the USD, like making content, like all this stuff. As obviously, I know why I should care about CeeLo, but like, why should other people? Why would people that are maybe mildly interested in collegiate League of Legends, right? Let's say they watch Tier 1. Let's say they're also the devoted few that watch Tier 2, right? They're like part of the 10,000 people or whatever.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, Tier 2. There are a bunch of Tier 2 players in CeeLo. You guys should go watch it, right? And remember, when we did the Tier 3, when Salty Runback did the Tier 3 finals, the finals for the promotion tournament, they did it on their thing. I was specifically shouting out. I was like, hey, if you want to see more of these guys, if you like tier 1, 2, and 3, these guys are competing in CLOL right now. Some of these teams
Yeah.
are going at it consistently. Like, I'm trying to push it. Where is that for RSSA or University Esports? Who is controlling that? Because it just feels like for the amount of followers, like University Esports has 10,000 followers almost, right? They're at 9,500.
Mm-hmm.
Where is the social media posts? Where are the engagement? Where is the stuff where like, oh, big match. Here's our match of the week. Why can't we like, I don't know, outsource somebody to do like a match of the week? Salty Runback's doing it. You've got Travysty, who's a co-streamer, right? All this stuff. Why are we not like creating a video on like, here's the breakdown, right? Or the shit I was doing with Salty Runback with the CLOL study hall,
Professor
right?
Shibby, baby.
I do want to also preface this real quick because I know we're getting in deep here, and I want to preface this, and I don't mean to cut you off, but don't take this as an opportunity to flame social media people too, because they're working.
No.
Because like I could see a world where somebody reaches in and they're like, yeah, the social media person should bury. It's like, no, I've talked to the social media person over there inside that Twitter. Super sweet individual, very nice, was very compliant,
I'm not blaming
very
them.
quick. I think what the point that is coming across is like we have, and this is I think just a 2024 esports thing. Positions were lost. They constantly shrunk down, and they just said, forget about these positions. And we're feeling those holes now. I get where you're coming from.
It makes me sad, Travis.
It makes you sad. It makes you sad. It makes Shibby, like, start to tense up a little bit. His eyebrow starts fidgeting a bit. Like, Shibby's like, support to Legion.
The wrong way.
But it's like,
we've lost the heart. Like, we've lost the heart of like why we're doing this stuff. And there are people out there that are willing to make content if you invest in them, right? It's not just me. Salty Runback, in a matter of a week, fucking created a broadcast through community support, obviously, right? Through initiatives. With enough time, you're telling me that we, like, I don't know. And it's not to blame the social media person. Yeah. I know they're trying their hardest. I get it. I understand. You only have a finite amount of time. You're only paid to do X amount of stuff for the X amount of work. I get it, right? Like, I'm not gonna tell you to overwork yourself 80 hours a week so that Shibby on a fucking
give me the content. Give me the content.
Feel amazing.
Work 80 hours.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, obviously I'm not advocating for that, but it just feels like RSAA and University Esports or whatever partner we get, whether it's GG Tech, a Rally Cry, whoever, right? We've just lost the fucking plot, man. Like, we have simply lost the heart of why we are doing this and why you should get people interested, and we've just become glorified like stats pages or like information, and even then we barely do that well. I ranted.
No, you're fine. You're fine. It's fine to rant. I kind of want to share my point of view just because of how strongly you felt about it too. I think the heart still exists, but the heart is the people that are trying to keep it alive. And right now, I think 2024 is the season where it feels like that heart is getting tapped into, and we're starting to see like a bit of damage onto that. And I do wonder, like, I hope that this is just a temporary gap for a lot of stuff that's going on, because if they rely on the heart to keep pumping into next year, I don't see a world in which that's sustainable, right? Like the heart.
You might need a quadruple bypass.
Yeah, like,
bro,
you're just hitting the buzzer permanently on operation there, right? Like, it is not a good time. So it's more of like a call of like, I hope that this year is a wake-up call, because I hope they see the viewership. I hope they see the support. I hope they see the donations. I hope they see the amount of people that do care, that do
the
support.
Shoulder content,
the
right?
Heart and soul that's out there, bro. Like, I'm out here mixing up content. Yo, you think, like, I went out there and did MEC Unleashed and like did that voice for like two whole minutes. That voice sucks to do for 2 whole minutes. Let me tell you that right now.
I bet.
Like, I legitimately got done with that. It's just like, I need something hot to drink. Like, I felt like Macho Man in his 80s at that moment in time. It was bad. Like, I hope that they realize, like, they can't tap the heart again. This is the one time that they've been able to do it. The heart and soul will always be the players and those who are there to support it, but you're doing irreparable damage if you continue to let it tank all the way for too long.
You're chain smoking, bro. You're chain
Yeah.
smoking. Like, that's what's happening.
Put it down.
Put it down.
Put it down,
God
Dad.
damn it.
Put it down. Okay. Yeah, but on to the final two things I wanted to talk about.
Okay, go
One,
ahead.
it's become official. I think we mentioned it. We talked about it. And also the second thing, we'll talk about like the future landscape of what the MEC looks like and the teams and stuff like that. The first thing is, I think it is official, and I got confirmation that it was a mutual parting. Hyper has officially like left MEC. I think that was put on Twitter.
It was.
He put that out there. It was a mutual parting. I don't think anybody got fired or anything. I
No.
talked to both Hyper and I talked to I talked to Jonathan Chemo, if you guys are familiar with Chemo.
Yes.
Cool guy. Sucks, but I think with the way Hyper's life is going and what he's doing, I think
There's
it's
a
just kind of
plot. I'm keeping my fingers crossed. There's a timeline where he ends up in North Carolina. Is the last I heard, potentially. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed.
Yeah, I know Hyper's future is a little bit uncertain in terms of like what he's going to be doing. I'm sure that he'll find something because of how talented he just is in that space.
And passionate.
Broadcast production. Yeah, and the dude was a fucking one-man army this season, by the way. Like, straight up.
Mm-hmm.
For the MEC season, half of the things don't get done if Hyper's not pulling in the extra hours and stuff like that. And so I definitely want to take some time to kind of like just reflect on that and talk about it now that it's all official and everything. I'm sure that he'll get hired as like a contractor or like he'll do like because I know for Unified they want like somebody there in person for a lot of the stuff. I know Hyper was doing on top of broadcasting, he was doing like payment stuff. He was doing a lot more than what was asked of him. So I'm sure now it's actually probably a better relationship for him that he's out of that like official capacity, and he might just get contracted officially as just like can you help on the broadcast side? Can you, because he knows it better than anybody else, right? Like realistically.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping something like that happens where Unified doesn't just not use him for his very highly specialized skill set and lose what Unified is. So I'm sure there'll be some sort of thread like that. But I'm also like really happy that Hyper's getting engaged, he's getting married, all this stuff. They're moving out. Like it's a lot of stuff, and I just wanted to show my appreciation for him, in this MEC pod because he was part of the reason we were doing this
to begin with. Yeah, him and Jay.
But yeah.
Why do we keep losing people? Where's them now? The team's gone. Damn it! What's going on? Make it stop.
And this is why Emo Mac is never going away from my folder.
I'm not coming out of my room. I don't care about dinner.
But like, yeah, I mean, I totally get where you're at. I appreciate Hyper a lot. I knew Hyper back when he was a coach. And back when he used to write like lore guides on Reddit. And then him like making his journey on being a caster.
Hey, that's the most.
I remember those.
I've ever.
No, I remember those on Reddit. Yeah,
that's so good.
So
I love him for that.
I remember me and him talking ideas. One of my very first interactions was like actually sitting down in a room with him as a head caster in Compete League, and he had this idea. He wanted it to have something very stylistic because, of course, Hyper does. So Hyper always had his trilby. That people would troll him and be like, he's wearing a fedora, and he's like, no, it's a trilby. But he would have that like always on, and he wanted to have it to where it would be on while he was able to still hear people and all that other stuff whenever he was on broadcast. But he had this idea where he wanted a mic to drop down from the sky and into frame so he could hold it. It was like a wrestling mic. And it was and I remember him like crafting a like pulley system to make this fucking work. It's just like it would just slowly descend, and he would just
Bruce
Hello,
Buffer
ladies
style.
and gentlemen. Yeah, like he was like Mr. Kennedy or some shit. Like it was so good. I was just like, you know what? I appreciate that. Hyper's always been like the most passionate person. Will he like rub some people the wrong way at times? Yeah, I think anybody who's super passionate about something will. And I don't think you're meant to like be buddy buddy with everybody. I don't think everybody's meant to like somebody, right? But I think Hyper as a friend, I always enjoyed the passion that he brought in, and as a colleague, I always appreciated the fact that he was like always on top of shit. Like he was always on top of it.
Yeah.
He's the one that allowed me to push stuff to the limit, right? With the props and everything like that. Like he was the one. He was the one in the background. I was communicating. Hey, can I do this? Can we buy enough time? He's like, yeah, go for it, right? The box, the shoe, the cheese, the lemon, the fucking. I mean, there's so much stuff, right? The sweep that happened last year, where it was me and my girlfriend sweeping in the back, like it was. Remember, like on the desk, it was Echo and all. Like that's the stuff where he's allowed me to push virtual broadcasting to the limit that I want it to, and without him, I didn't think I would just be like another caster, right? Like another caster 1, 2, 3, and I would just be a guy that just does stuff. But I think he really allowed my personality to flourish a little bit, not a little bit, a lot of it within the MEC and within Unified, and that's allowed me to kind of parlay that and be like, well, they fucking did it, so we should be able to do it. Like, you know what I mean? He's the groundwork. He's the blueprint.
Shout outs to the one time I got Hyper in trouble by okaying Alk Battery to show up in a maid outfit on stream.
Oh,
shout outs to Hyper for that.
I mean, even old, PGCQ.
Hyper was so mad when he came back and saw that, and I was just like, I approved it. And he was just like, Travis approved it, I guess.
I mean, yeah, but like, there's a lot of producers or broadcast coordinators, whatever you want to call them, that would not let half the shit that we did on Unified, that you did, Travysty, and your guys did on like PGCQ and all that stuff, like all this stuff, right? And I think Hyper was a big reason as to like why, if there was ever any pushback, he's like, no, trust them, or like, they know what they're doing. I'm put my faith in them.
Let him cook.
Or
Hyper line. Let him cook.
or he will scream, Travis, stop! Travis, stop! Travis, I'm gonna get in trouble! Stop! Travis, stop! That happened a bit.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know what happened with me, Shibby. Okay. Yeah, a Mac.
Shibby, I swear to God, get out of fucking chat right now, you
Yeah, I love it. Mac, I know you've worked with Hyper for a bit now because you did all the Unified stuff. I mean, I feel like nothing we said is untrue.
No, not at all. My one want would be to eventually get invited to a Hyper ran Dungeons and Dragons session. I'm so intrigued by how because all my go-to would be to talk about D&D before a cast after we like got settled in and we're like ready to go. Because also Hyper, like, just again, Travi, you mentioned it before, like sets a wonderful standard of professionalism within the space, and with that also allows us to be creative. And so I feel like with that you actually get to have a really awesome relationship with him. That is pretty special within the esports space. And so my one, and that kind of relationship leaves you with, like, at the end of a season, I feel like pretty satisfied with the job that we did throughout 2 years of EC. And that I don't think you get that feeling in a lot of leagues, and I think Hyper is a big part of that. So my only last wish is to hopefully get into a D&D session with Hyper.
Yeah, do like a 1 day or 1 session campaign or something like that. That would be
do a one shot.
Be like a fly on the wall. He just seems like a hilarious DM to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, that was the Hyper part. Yeah. I just wanted to it's official glazing. And yeah, the hyper glazing. I'm eternally grateful for him and Jay specifically, just because they're really the ones that kind of showed me like what I could be within casting, right? Because before that, Travysty, Mac, you already know you're in the times where you're grinding out the $5 casts, the $10 casts, and like, it's hard to make a name for yourself. So when I got announced for that unified thing, it was just one of those things where, I'm eternally
Bro,
grateful for them.
I did TCS for like $20. Dude, like...
Yeah. But the second part, I know we're gonna wrap it up soon.
Yeah.
What the MEC is gonna look like for those teams, right? Like you mentioned, we talked about it super early on. Levi, Killian's gonna be gone. I think Ottawa's got a really interesting core of players, depending on if I know Prod said he's staying. I love the idea that Prod is still there. I think Braun has another year.
Braun, Plutz, I think, are
Rivers,
all three staying. And
are they?
Yeah. Staying. I think.
Yeah, I think
I've
that's
heard a
such a
couple
dope
rumors
core.
of what the roster is going to be too, and it's a pretty sick-sounding roster. I'm not going to leak on the pod, but like the roster actually sounds. If the rumored roster is true, sounds sick. I'm actually a bit worried about Purdue Northwest because they put out
Wind King.
tweets.
Yeah, Wind King's LFT. He's official for both CLOL and I think like NACL / OQs.
Yes.
So I don't know if he's returning to Purdue Northwest. I've heard some things. I'm not gonna leak or anything like that. I mean,
Kletso also said I'm gonna miss these guys after the game, and I'm like,
the post
somewhere and Prank made a post saying like. It sounds like Purdue Northwest. A lot of the players might be looking to shift to different options, and that's our first seed team, and it's kind of sad. I think was this Toponer's senior year as well, right? Like it was either senior or not sophomore, junior year.
Yeah, I think the landscape for these teams is going to look very interesting, right? I think, whatever the rosters may be, even GVU I know is retooling a little bit. Coming into the next year, a lot of stuff on that roster and kind of who's leaving, who's staying, right? I think the one thing they do have, I got to obviously watch Strict Proctor play. I got to talk to his parents. Like, his parents
are they strict?
Support him. No, they're super cool. They're both the mom and dad. They are some of the most supportive parents I've ever seen. They were at the LAN. They were some of the nicest people. The dad was a really big soccer guy. He played soccer competitively and stuff like that. He's got 2 siblings that also compete. And it was funny because the dad was like, hey, out of all 3, I thought the 2 people that play physical sports would be the most competitive. I was like, oh no, you're wrong, huh? It's Proctor. And he's like, yeah, the things I see, I hear, he does the combine, he does all this stuff. He's hyper competitive. And I was like, yeah, that's just league players, right? They want to, the drive. And the fact that Proctor has such supporting parents, I think that's really cool for GVU if they can build on top of that, because the amount of improvement that Proctor's made from the beginning of the year till now, I think is phenomenal. And that's what I was telling his parents. I think they have got I will say this: Purdue, Ottawa, at least for our top 3 teams, I don't know what the bottom 5 are going to shake out to be. I don't know what ONU looks like. Drury, all these other teams. Who knows who's going to be even in the MECC this conference, right? Because we had 2 new teams coming in. But at least for the top 3 teams that most people are familiar with, there are some really exciting core pieces that each of them can build around. I will shamelessly say that I'm so excited to see how Prod develops as a player, both competitively and with the
absolutely.
He's going to Korea. I know Blonde's going to Korea later. His trip got delayed, but Prod is going. I'm excited for this Ottawa team. I'm excited for GVU and Purdue Northwest because I think finally, at least, a lot of people are paying attention to the MEC and where it was laughable that they were 3 teams deep. The fact that all 3 of them made it into top 16 definitely is. There's going to be more people watching that region and potentially other conferences watching that region to scout and poach more talent. So I'm both excited and scared, right? Because I want the MEC to still look good. Yeah, whether I participate within the MEC next year or not is independent of my interest in watching these guys play. Right? I'm still going to watch them if I don't cast them. I'm still going to pay attention to the games. Yeah. I'm still going to do what I can to involve myself in regards to making sure I'm up to date. Because I think we're we're one of the few people that really can tell those stories, Travysty and Mac. And I think that's a unique position we're in.
Long-term storytelling. Mac, how about you? Are you feeling some kind of way For
You already know, man.
yeah.
You don't need to see my face.
It's pretty happy right
Or
now.
Yeah,
even
it's really
click
happy
on-
on the screen right now.
It's up to you. Only you can. It's like Uncle Sam. Like, only you can save esports.
Uncle Sam plays for Ole Miss, man. What do you mean? Oh, I'm just kidding.
Oh. No, I was getting in my feels just listening to Shibby talk about it, and like overall, I definitely second like watching Prod go through. Like I mean, like jokingly, he won most likely to int for Scuttle, and they like I'm just so impressed by Ottawa, especially with how they played in round of 32 and round of 16. Like those guys played their heart out and showed why they belonged. And you know, as Shibby, you were kind of saying it as we've naturally become MEC fans and gotten close to the community and everything, and you know, even doing the podcast and stuff, we think MEC's on our minds. And so naturally, at its conclusion, we're thinking about the future, and um, I'm excited about where it's at. You know, this was probably our best season from like a
Oh yeah.
performance standpoint, right, for teams, and um, I think you know thinking about even Drury. What if Briarcliff comes back with a lot of their players? Um, Drury's got a really fun roster. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on some.
I mean, there's Drury, there's Cleveland staying,
Drury mid
right?
lane. Who is the Drury young mid
Orion.
laner who came in? Orion. Oh my gosh, I'm
Orion.
so sorry,
Yeah.
Orion. I was thinking that I could just see his way popping off, you know.
Yeah.
So you know, Orion, Fat Cat on Drury are just so awesome, and yeah, even ONU's got a lot of people who are leaving, but who's gonna you know fill in the
Exactly.
void.
That's
So
gonna be so sad not seeing a
um,
full like the Brothers of Destruction or.
yeah.
Uh,
And what is like thinking about the regular like Ottawa came out of nowhere too. They lost all their regular season games to the big three, and um they go from that to top 16 in the nation, which is just so amazing. So um yeah, Shibby, I get with what it makes me want to do like an MEC documentary or something. Or like even just like an expose, like talking to the coaches afterwards or something. Um yeah, I just feel Shibby's uh just so have you could you make some like and I was joking about this with my
Voiceover.
girlfriend recently with like how guys get motivated versus and I'm like you should it's like the lock in meme where it's like all guys
Lock
need is to
in.
just lock in, you know, or like watch a motivational video. And so I just want like an MEC motivational video of like anything's possible, like you can make it to top six or you know something
Fucking
like
Muhammad
that.
Ali, and I did dream. Dude, you know what the fucked up thing is? One time,
What?
like my girlfriend was like looking for advice. I was like, Amy, you just gotta lock in. It's just like,
yeah, lock in.
she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm like, you. I was like, nut up or shut up. Obviously, it wasn't good at the time, right? And obviously, like that shit works for me in my head.
Yep, yep.
Obviously, it's not universal law, but she took it. She's like, she got what I meant, but it was very unhelpful. She's like, that was the most unhelpful thing you've ever said. And I was like, fair enough. You know, we're not always gonna be on the
Oh my
same
God.
wavelength. But I get what you mean.
So our message to esports: just lock in.
Just lock
Just
in.
lock in.
What?
Just lock in. Casters start draft.
West, just lock in next time, bro.
Or
you know,
even East, right?
yeah, it can't be an MEC pod without me slandering the West. Just lock in, West. Come on.
Hey.
Or don't. But hey, you got to see your three MEC casters coming together and really getting to talk about everything. Shout outs to everybody who has been watching, supporting. I know we had a good amount of support for when we brought this back for everything. It was fun actually like sitting up and actually like making a new graphic for it because I was just like, oh, we need something that's more CeeLo because it's all red over there. So it was very fun like trying to create something for us. It's a little bit different. Shout outs to Shibby and Mac for coming along yet again on the journey. I appreciate both
The 5%.
of you.
The 5%.
Yeah.
Travis the 95, and me and Mac are the 5%.
Here all day, man. All day. You got it, Travis.
That 5%, you needed it. You needed it. No, this shit doesn't happen without Travis the Unironic. I know we went over it on our last like official MEC pod episode for the MEC season. Travysty does like 95% of the work, dude. Me and Mac just show up. That's all. Like we show up, we talk. Obviously,
Guys, I don't gotta
like,
get glazed again. It's fine. It's fine.
We have a group chat. It's like Travesty coordinating the times, figuring out the schedules. I'm always like, yeah, man, I'm game for anything. Just fucking whatever. Max got something or other going on half the time, but he makes it work.
One night of the week. D&D's
Yeah,
messing it up.
Travesty's making the graphics, doing the intros, the music. The dude's literally like 95% heavy lifting. This shit doesn't happen without Travesty, like unironically. Also, it's not as interesting if it's just me and Mac doing it or like two of us doing it, unfortunately. It is the trichotomy.
Yeah, we did need Travy for that, actually.
yeah, you know. Yeah. And I hope we get to do something like this, even like I said, even if we are or aren't involved. I have no clue what the future looks like for MEC and Unified or anything like that. But I'd love to do this next year, wherever MEC
Guys,
is.
I got an idea. Hear me out, right? If worse comes to worse, we switch it around. We're just pod.
I thought you were gonna say pod MEC.
No. I was thinking like, you know what? We could film an intro. It will be to the theme of I'm just Ken. You know, it'll be great. It will be great. You know,
I'm just pod and not like league.
I'm just
Not
pod.
like other
I like
pods.
games.
Oh my god.
And I will be
Okay.
the pod that everybody wants me to be. I'm just pod.
You know, you kind of kill it with the mustache and everything, Javi. You kind of are like an alternate timeline Ken, low key. Multiverse Ken. I think we just ended off that. Multiverse Ken out.
Multiverse kid, we out. Peace.